All right, we'll now call the city council regular meeting to order for June 14th, 6 p.m. to rise to the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Invocation given by Deputy Mayor Jim Bernard.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your love. Thank you for being with us tonight. Please guide us as we go ahead and continue this business about the city. Continue to give us guidance, wisdom, and do that in your will, dear Lord. Please look after all of our school children as they get out for the summer, and please take care of our first responders. And thank you for the Lord, the rain today, Lord. Please send us some more. Do this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Madam Clerk, please get a roll.
Councilmember Gray. Here. Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Here.
Mayor Anderson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First up, we have the consent agenda. This will be the minutes from May 24th. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from May the 24th, 2021.
Second.
I'd like to make one correction on the minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 4, under Kinley Horn Project Order number 1, it states that Jarrett from Kinley Horn was here. It's actually Jared.
Okay.
So that's the only correction that I had.
Anything else on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray. Yes. Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Item number 5, we have the Highlands County TDC geocaching hosting agreement. Something that came before us a while back, and from what I understand, there were some changes that were to be made. Is there anything that staff needs to brief us on?
It's a new one for this year, and they actually specify location, Lake Tulane.
Okay. Any questions or concerns on that? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Highlands County TDC geocache housing agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Up next, item number 6, long-awaited RFP for the Prickle Building. We have some highlighted remarks in here. Looks to me like most of this was what was discussed by the council. Didn't see anything that was jumped out at me in particular. Is there any questions or briefings on this?
I have a question for page 3.
Okay, go ahead.
In the first part that is highlighted, talking about the parking, we had kind of discussed this, and I don't know that it has to be in writing or not, but could we add something in there that states along the lines of that the parking cannot be subleased or to any other person or entity, or to be used by same as an alternative parking for other residential buildings regardless of owner? No, it says to any other person or entity. It doesn't talk about if it's the same owner. And the reason why I say that is because if you are an owner of that building and you buy another building downtown that has residential on it, then you can use this parking for the residential of the other building if it's within 150 feet, I think, per code. And this would eliminate, disallowing that.
So, or any other building.
Or any other building regardless of owner.
Have no issue with that.
Me neither.
Any other changes or questions?
On the historic exterior, which is the last highlighted area, the building's been altered so many times. Is there going to be an expectation for them to rehab it to its original condition when it says maintain its historic exterior?
I would say as is.
Okay. Okay.
That's as far in history as we're going.
All right. So if no one has anything on that, on page 4, it talks about section C, section G. List of prior development experience, it says, developed within the last 5 years. Considering the economy and COVID and everything else, would 10 years be sufficient? Because you may not have someone that did something in the last 5.
I don't think it's really gonna much matter.
Because I mean, it's part of the point system as well, so I don't know if that's something that we want to change to 10. Just make it a little more flexible, so you have a little more people applying maybe.
I don't think that hurts.
I don't think it's gonna exclude anyone from applying, it's just gonna make the resume look a little better. Is anyone opposed to that change? Okay.
All right, and then on page 9, if no one has anything between then and 9, in terms of the public records, Jerry, you know, it talks about the possession that the respondent will have to provide those records to the city, and that they're to destroy any duplicate public records that are exempt or confidential and all that. Are we going to rely on public records from another entity when we shouldn't they be housed with the city? And I mean, to what limit are we talking about payroll on this other on the proposer? Are we going to be looking at the payroll as part of their public records? I mean, should that even be something that anyone needs to know if they've already signed off on?
It's only a public record, statutorily it's a public record, and even then, it's only if whatever they're doing, they're acting on behalf of the city. And acting on behalf of, I'm using air quotes, because that's a defined term under the law. There's case law that defines it. So it can't be just simply an engineer, you know, maybe acting on behalf of, in colloquial terms, the city by making a design and request it, but they don't have a public records obligation. But on the other hand, there are, like your accountant may have records that are public records when they're putting it together. And that would make it subject to the Public Records Act.
But that to me seems to imply that they are more a partner than they are an independent developer, no?
Not at all. It's just a quirk in the law. Public records law in the state of Florida, they have circumstances where if it's meets a group, there's like 5 or 6 criteria that this case, one major case, it was an engineering case, it didn't say that they were acting on behalf of, but it developed a case law or how you look at it and see. And that if it meets that criteria, and it's pretty subjective, but if it meets that, then they have to have public records. They have to keep public records with regard to those types of things. Doesn't mean everything they do is a public record. Yeah. But, you know, if it's that part of acting on behalf of those records, they become.
Well, because this is thrown in there, does that also imply that there's going to be, they won't be able to communicate with council? I mean, would they have to bring public disclosure to discussions that they have with individuals or
Would be a sunshine
with the
issue.
city?
It
No?
doesn't mean that they're obligated to be sunshine.
Okay.
And like I said, it's a quirky area. There are circumstances where it happens, like a perfect example is FAM. I'm really doing a lot of stuff that's clearly acting on behalf of the city because you're building and economic development, things like that, that are part of it. But this is a typical provision in Florida since they changed the law in like 2017 or 18, something like that, and they made us do this. Before that, it was sort of like, well, are they or are they not? You had to go to court to find out, and now you just have to assume everybody knows, and you put this into everything. That doesn't mean that anything they'll do will require to keep public records unless they are acting on behalf of.
Okay, and then my other question is, you're familiar with what happened with Sebring and their CRA? There's some issues going on with public records and Sunshine with one of the proposers that was not considered, even though they thought they were considered, and there were talks and this and that. And I want to make sure that we don't go through anything like that to where, you know, they talked to the CRA person, they talked to the city manager who told them something. And then, I mean, they are claiming a lot of miscommunication and violations of Sunshine laws. And one of the proposers in Sebring. And,
Oh,
yeah, so remember I sent you that email that showed you what was going on in Sebring. I want to make sure that, you know, we don't go through an issue where if we get a proposal, are we allowed to talk about it once it becomes, you know.
So it's as clear as dirt.
Okay.
But unfortunately, as I mentioned at the last meeting, my position, which is the conservative position, is that, you can do anything, well, this is absolute, you can do anything, it's fact finding. Committee, group, whatever, you do fact finding, that's not covered if you have a subcommittee, and you appoint them. If you have staff members just getting together and talking about things, no sunshine associated with that at staff level. But if you get a group of people in to negotiate a contract, that's not as clear. And I have had discussions with the Attorney General's office. It's just not incredibly clear how that goes. The safe route is, since we say that it is covered by the Sunshine Act, they just open it up. But I don't, just because you're, an attorney's talking to somebody about positions in the city and so on, it's staff level.
Okay. And then the last thing also, considering it's in the CRA district, could we put something in here in reference to them maintaining it to the minimum CRA standards? In terms of color,
Yeah.
whatever they select in terms of
Sure.
awnings and all that stuff, so that they don't paint it like a zebra
Yeah.
or a giraffe.
Yeah, if you want to add that stuff, now's the time to do it.
Yeah. So to include the minimum
Yeah, if you
maintenance
get that
guidelines.
information over to Mark, I'm sure he'll put that.
It's attached to the back of the CRA application for facades. There's a staple to the back of that is the CRA minimum maintenance standards.
Okay.
Anyone opposed to that?
Nope.
I'm done.
Anything else? Any changes or questions about the RFP?
Do you want a motion for tonight with the changes?
Well, now that you've added something that's fairly obscure, don't you think we ought to just go ahead and amend it and send it back to you for approval? I mean, if it was just the changes that we just talked about, that would be fine, but the one you added at the end there where it's attaching all that additional stuff, it probably should be,
Can we just add just a simple line?
Yeah, like an exhibit A.
That we just simply adhere to the minimum CRA standard?
okay, that's fine.
They're called minimum maintenance guidelines. That's the name of them.
I mean, that's something that they're gonna have to abide by anyway,
Right.
just because they're in the city,
Sure, want to be as clear as possible
but
about it.
we're just being
Yeah, we just
extra
want to.
clear. Right.
All right, so, with that, then you can go ahead and vote to approve it.
Okay. So I did notice that the date was blank in this RFP. We had discussed how long it's gonna be advertised for several times. Do we have a firm date that we can put on this agreement? I know we had discussed 60 days, we discussed 90 days.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Sure.
As far as you're talking about advertising, I was gonna advertise it twice in paper, then put it on our website. You want to advertise more than that in paper, or
But twice in the paper for how long?
what's that?
Twice in the paper for how long? 30 days, 60 days?
Well, yeah, I don't know about running, if you want to run in the paper for 30 days.
Can it be sent to the Highlands County MLS and all those, so they can?
Well, if you want to get the broadest brush, does your local paper get picked up by these groups that summarize, like engineers have to get stuff from all over the country that's summarized in their, they don't have to look at every newspaper. Do these summaries occur in your newspaper? I don't know. If not, then you should send it to a major newspaper like Tampa or.
Rick, you know that because we do get a lot that you handle that come in. Is that where they're picking it up from the paper?
They'll pick it up in the newswire. That's why you go into the newspapers, get that wide circulation, Dodge reports and a number of other.
Like the construction journal and all those things? pick that up?
They'll pick them up.
So do you think, or are you saying that if you advertise for 30 days, that the responses come back within that same time period as well? Because I don't know that that's going to be sufficient time.
What you want to do is you want to have, you advertise it, and then generally you have a pre-bid meeting or pre-submittal meeting a week or two after that. And then a week after that, you have a deadline for questions to be submitted so they can be answered. And then a week after that will be when the proposal will do. But I do recommend putting in the newspaper.
If they're more-
It's a wide service.
We can
If you're-
also advertise on Demand Star, which is, it's an online bidding.
If you're in a rush, why stick to 30 days when you get 60?
I think
Sure.
60 is very adequate.
60 days it is.
So
Let
then,
me ask a question.
Go ahead.
no, I'll just say, if you do it for 60 days, then they can figure out how long for the addenda and all that stuff.
So the question is, if a person can only submit the application during those 60 days of advertising, is that correct? Is that our understanding?
Well, they're referring to the 60 days advertisement. As you advertise it, and you give them a total of 60 days, including the dates of advertisement, to get their bids in and give them a date certain, which is
Okay.
like 60 days out to get it done. And then at that point, we'll be deadline at like
Okay.
4 o'clock on such and
Okay.
such a date. Because you don't want them walking in the last second at 5 and say, right there.
And that's what I was questioning, because let's say after the bid closed on the 60th day, and then we have our first 2 weeks of the pre-bids or what have you, then someone say, well, oh, I didn't submit my bid, I wanna do that now, they can't do that.
That's too late.
Gotcha.
So as, right now, it's already written up for a Friday at 3 p.m. So if we want to just, as a council, pick what Friday that's going to be, there wouldn't be any question.
Well, we still have to get it back for approval, for final approval, right? So it would be from,
If we approve it tonight, it's approved, right there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you'd advertise like this week?
I don't know when they publish, so I mean, we'll just get it out as quickly as we could.
Yeah.
So we could shoot for the Friday being, let's say, August 27th at 3 p.m.
More than enough.
Just over 60 days.
Yeah.
All right, so August 27th it is
4 p.m.
at 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
according to what's already written here. And since we want to get in front of the most ears we possibly can, our wonderful local radio station is probably going to do their part, right?
If they start coming in early, you'll know you got a good bang for your buck, as opposed to other media outlets who may or may not be here
Nope.
tonight.
Enough said. All right, so with stated changes, August 27th, 3 p.m. Any other changes? Do we have a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to move forward with that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes,
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passed unanimously.
Item number 7, approve the interlocal agreement with Highlands County, reference Donaldson Park restrooms. Ms. Phillips, I see your name on it. All the information is here. Does the council have any questions? Don't all jump at once. We're redoing the bathrooms at long last.
Yes.
So if there's no questions, do we have a motion?
I motion that we approve the interlocal agreement with Highlands County for the Donaldson Park restoration improvements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no questions, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
yes,
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 8, we have the approval of Excavation Point Inc. for the proposals for resurfacing improvements to several city roadways. These are some roadways that we had discussed previously with Rick. Is there any questions for him on these projects?
Where does the milling, where are we taking our millings? Do they keep them or are they gonna give them back to us?
That's a good question. I don't know. Dave, do you know?
I can check with them and find out for sure. We have a storage area at the airport that we could keep them in.
There is quite a bit of value there, particularly nowadays.
I keep them separate than from the airport.
Well, then find a location for them.
So obviously, the council's purview is that if they are available to us and not part of the bid, then we would like to keep them, right?
Yes.
Let me just ask the question I don't know the answer to, and that is, if the millions have, will treat oil or any other fuels and so on, which they typically do because they're made with them, you definitely want to make sure you're very careful about what you do with those. You're just going to store them somewhere, so it doesn't contaminate the ground.
Right, we'll have to inspect it too, because they're being rebuilt, because there's problems, and we have pockets that may have been laid down properly, but we'll inspect that and come up with a game plan to make sure that it's stored safely.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there a motion?
You want them all at the same time for all of them?
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we approve the suggested road resurfacing and overlays specifically item D8.
Second,
Motion and a second is done. Is there any further questions?
I got one question.
Go ahead,
When would they get started on this?
when they get time. Which varies.
As soon as possible, once they get the contract, they'll have to stay and get work, and many other things that they've got going on. But I don't have a preliminary schedule for you, I can get that for you though.
Oh, okay.
Hey, David, to that, the one that council approved a few meetings ago, have they started that one yet?
They haven't started yet. They're super busy, but they work it in to their schedule. I can check with Tal and see when South Waldron is going to be paved. I'm sure he's got it worked into his schedule. But once these roads get worked into the schedule, it might be a couple months before they get it done, because they're constantly doing stuff throughout Sebring, Avon Park, and Lake Placid.
Are you all taking questions from them?
Yes, sir. You just have to come to the podium there.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
give-
I'm just, about the
Well,
million.
You'll have to come to the podium so we can get it in the record, otherwise we're
Okay,
trying to.
okay.
Please give your name and address if you will there.
Yeah, Eric Wilson, 1445 South Carolina Avenue.
Yes, sir.
About the millings, you
Yes.
were asking about the milling. Can't you use those back in to?
They do.
the roadway?
So that's the question, is some of the companies use them as they're repaving, right on the
But
spot.
I mean, that's not part of your.
We don't know. That's why we asked the question. That's why we instructed the staff to find out for us.
Oh, okay, but I mean, it's part of the quote from the.
That's what we're trying to
Oh,
find out.
okay, all right, that's fine.
Eric is a detail man.
So that means that, so, Gary,
Yeah.
so that means that if some of the milling can be used back, the price will go down or something?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out.
Either that, or if we can keep them, then we can store them because we use them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if it's part of their bid that they're counting on getting this back and they're actually discounting it because of that, then obviously we wouldn't want to do anything with it. But if they're just taking it back and then it's not specified one way or another, then we will obviously want to get that material.
Got it. Okay. I thought that was the only answer you had, that's what we're trying to find out. I'm just messing with you.
So does this complete the budget for street paving and stuff? Does this complete that fund?
Yes, pretty close to it.
So I know we have to finish this motion, but I had a question in one particular right of way that I don't know who owns. But going parallel with Main Street and Pine Street, there are residences that face Main Street across the street from the lake. And the garbage trucks go back and forth in there and it's a dirt road. And I mean, I walk a lot and I just see this road getting worse and worse and worse and worse. People park on there and our garbage cans are back there and stuff.
If I'm not mistaken, we looked into it before, I think it's just a private alleyway,
Who owns that alleyway then?
the apartments there.
The apartments?
Yeah, the owner of the apartments that are right there.
Well, then we're damaging it with our trucks. And I don't know if that's something that we want to assume the liability on, but I mean, if our garbage trucks are going through there and, they're allowing it nonetheless, I think it was to, overcome the ugliness of having garbage cans on Main Street, but there are other cans on Main Street. So why assume that liability? But I just was wondering because it looks pretty shabby.
Rick, can you write that down and get with Anthony and have a look? Let's find out who does own it and if we are on somebody's private property doing damage.
Well, if it's private property that we're serving, and that's the reason we're going to serve them, and that's what reason we're going that way. Is that what's happening, or?
Well, if it's apartments, I don't know which the apartments are. There's residences on the Main Street side, and I don't know what's on the other. I think it's residences. So I don't know how many apartments you're talking about, but some of those garbage cans belong to private residences that aren't part of an apartment complex. They just get thrown back there.
I guess the point I'm making is it's just for our convenience, that we're going over somebody's private property, don't do it. But if it's because we're serving that private property, it's another matter that, we need to discuss that with them. Because we should have an easement, even if we're serving it.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no further questions, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Councilmember Grant,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes,
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passed unanimously.
All right, we're all questions done on that roadway?
Yep.
Okay. All right, item number 9. Under attorney updates, we have public hearing. This will be the second reading for ordinance 05-2021.
Ordinance to annex approximately 34.9 acres of land owned by Emmett and Lois Rose LLC, identified in county records as C-14-33-28-800-0690-0000, located at 701 East Winthrop Street, Avon Park. C-14-33-28-800-0700 located at 685 East Winthrop Street, Avon Park. C-14-33-28-800-0710 located at 633 East Winthrop Street, Avon Park, and C-14-33-28-800-0720 located at 727 East Winthrop Street, Avon Park, into the city of Avon Park, Highlands County, Florida. Provide for findings of lawfulness of the annexation, prerequisite notice, and post-passage notice, and providing for effective date.
All right, like I said, this is a second reading, so it'll be a public hearing. Public hearing for ordinance 05-2021 is now open. Anyone wishing to speak on this annexation can now do so. That means you three out there. I don't see any takers. Public hearing for ordinance 05-2021 is now closed. Back to the council. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 05-2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
At our last meeting, I had asked if this was, there was an ordinance or proposal or something that we had did in the past stating that we were not going to annex any roads into our city limits. And I don't remember the answer, or even if there was an answer given.
I think we're gonna look into that, was where we had left it.
Exactly.
Was there any information found on that?
If you're talking, we don't annex in roads, streets.
Groves.
She's saying ag, she's
Groves.
talking about ag.
Oh, roads.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what your history is on that. I just put together the annexation.
You know, we annexed in all of that Benhill Griffin property and all of that on the south end of town, and I don't recall, I remember there were conversations because there was a fire assessment, but there was, that I recall, it was discussed, but it was never really put into any formal action.
That's what I was supposed to.
That's what I'm saying, but I could be wrong.
And I don't remember either, that's why I asked them to find out.
But if you don't annex in
Can I
ag,
interject here?
Well, at the last meeting, Jerry was looking, he didn't find anything, but we did not look any farther. We can
Can I
because,
say something?
sure,
You guys discussed it, and it was discussed that you allowed them to annex because they were going to do a residential property.
right,
You discussed that you didn't let in Groves, but you were allowing them because they had a different plan.
Right. So
So,
typically there's a zoning change that would be associated with it, is how it's been done
yeah,
in the past, or future land use rather.
There you go.
I believe there was a future
I
land
saw
use
something in here in reference
map
to
that was provided, and according to this, you would have low density residential. So I guess that's the zoning department's answer, is that there is a future land use of low density residential. Part of that could be medium density residential, I see. So with medium density, you're talking about potential apartments. Low density, you're talking about mainly R1A, the single family home.
well, if they market it to developers, likely they're gonna want to intensify that.
Correct. Correct.
I just didn't want us to make a decision on this and then a year from now, come back and say, oh, we decided we weren't supposed to do that, what happened? Because I voted no on it last time, and I just waiting on the clarification, if we could actually do this. So
Yeah,
you're
so-
saying that we can.
I guess in this particular scenario, it might would have been more helpful to have our zoning department here so that they could, lead us in some of those questions. But unfortunately, we don't. So we have two choices of either putting it off until next meeting and inviting them here, or approving as is.
I'll just point out that The advertisement is already made on this, fairly expensive on that.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you, we can't hear you.
So it was already advertised for final reading in the public hearing, so that's fairly expensive.
Oh, okay.
So I wouldn't, I mean, I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying don't do it lightly. It's not-
I've spoken to the developer on this, and he's told me that it was going to be for residential on numerous occasions. And that they wouldn't be
Okay.
annexing in if it wasn't allowed on residential. So, and I don't know if they've reached Public Works or not in regards to water lines and sewer lines or any of that, but that's part of their due diligence as well.
My recollection is since 2010, you really hadn't big subdivisions, so you could use some.
I just don't want it to, you know, we annex it in as a grove now, then they tear it up and replant it as another grove, and then we got another grove there. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know why they want to annex in under those circumstances, truthfully, because they're not going to need police services, and very unlikely they're going to need fire services for that. It really is, I think, a preparation to market it, I'm sure.
Yeah, in speaking with them, it's, the whole idea is for future development. The question is just when is it gonna be developed? Is kind of what he thought in his mind, but obviously, as Jerry was saying, nobody would do this unless they wanted to intensify the use in some way. Obviously, R1A is more intense use in agricultural because it all adds value, so that's what it's all about in the end. I don't have a problem with it at this point. So we have a motion and
I'm good with it.
we have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions? Seeing none, we'll call a roll.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes,
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passed unanimous.
Thank you. Item number 10, we have the regular updates from city manager. Actually, before we get there, we do have a citizen sign up. We have Miss Helen Boone, 1012 South Lake Boulevard. If you'd like to come up to the podium, please. It says you have some concerns on a piece of paper. What can we do for you?
Excuse me.
If you'll pull that microphone towards your mouth there,
Okay,
better.
all right. Okay, I was here in 2020.
Okay.
And I presented what I'm going to talk about tonight to you all. But I also went over to the City Hall in 2019 with the same issue.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm talking about it tonight is because to one city council meeting, there was some work being done on a street, and I was wondering why nothing had been entertained with what I was complaining about, or maybe my concern. It's not a complaint yet, it's a concern.
Okay.
Okay, I was asking for a curb to be put down where I live, from Waldron all the way down to Lake Avenue, and to make a turn and go down, I say Lake Avenue, Lake Boulevard, and go down to Hood. It used to be a hill. The hill is not as steep now, but the water is running up from Waldron all the way down to where I live. Okay. If you put a curve there, the people that's turning on Harold McRae, that's turning on Harold McRae going to 27th, they won't be all over in the grass area over there. And right by that fire hydrant, there is it's a dent there. I don't know what it is, but it needs to be filled because maybe eventually it might give way. But
Is that maybe a leak? Rick, you think that might be a leak? Because that's what happens when if you have a hydrant nearby, and there's indentation, often there's a leak in that pipe there.
It could be. How long have you noticed it?
it's been like that ever since I've been over there. I moved over there in 2000. It's been like that ever since then.
I'll give you my business card. You can call me tomorrow. We'll come out and take a look at it.
Okay, that is really my concern.
Okay.
The curves and that was dent there.
Well, we're gonna have him go out there and take a look at it. He's our city engineer here.
I have a question on curbing too, on the intersection of Florida and Circle. There used to be a big problem with rain going down and hitting Stanley Spurlock's house before he got on council. And at that time, the streets department put in, it looks like a speed bump to prevent the water from going downhill, and all it did was redirect it to go south rather than going west. Is that general practice to put some kind of hump on a intersection
No.
to avoid putting
No.
curbing?
I don't know the geography as well as you do, so if I give you my business card. Seriously.
Sounds good, yeah,
Wait tomorrow.
okay.
But no, that's not standard practice.
I just wondered. It worked, whatever they did, it worked.
All right, regular city manager updates.
We have, okay.
A vote? There was no vote. yeah.
Just not on it, but to add, just Jerry, I'll be getting you another annexation that I was just working on this afternoon before I get it to you, and it looks like it's gonna grow, so.
Okay.
So that you know, there's one coming. Now that you taught me how to advertise and all that stuff. The hazmat cleanup the airport, Rick, you wanna fill council in on that?
Well, it's been finished. The last bit of work to be done is to dress up the areas that we had dug out. The samples, all passed, they've been disposed of at the landfill. I had given an estimate of about $30,000. I added some contingency on there in case we hit something unexpected, but the truth is that the total cost is gonna come around 26 to 27,000.
Excellent. Excellent. Anything else for the city manager updates?
Yeah, one more, but I'd like to, David's on, I'd like to thank David and Rick Reed. They put in, made a lot of hours out there doing it, saved the city a lot of money on what they did. So thank you, David.
We appreciate it, fellas. Thank you all a bunch.
David's done nothing but a great job since he's been here.
One of the hundreds of things they've done.
One of 100, and we got 1,000 left. In fact, they just removed some, what was the, down there by the 27 Main Street. Maria, I don't know if you saw where they removed those bushes.
And the mail.
The Gardens Club was looking for you, so just let you know. David took a run over that one. Anyways. FAM, just let you know from the special meeting we had that this morning, Jerry and I and Lowell were on with FAM. David Bernard had prior engagement, but we met with them, had a good meeting. We've got one set up for every Monday morning. And so that's going along, went along pretty good this morning, I would say. And also David Bernard, our outside attorney, and this has got a good rough draft on, which Jerry looked at and opined on. So just let you know that it's moving forward. And
Excellent.
It was a pretty good meeting this morning with FAM and their several members.
Okay.
And we discussed, I called them, or emailed them separately, we discussed the insurance aspects too.
Oh, and also David Bernard, the attorney, he's already reached out to FAA, got with the manager out there. He's gonna have his assistant manager, I forget her name, get with David by the end of this week to set up when we can actually have a meeting with them.
Excellent.
So it's moving forward.
Great. Anything else for the updates?
That's all I've got.
That concludes our agenda.
When are we starting budget?
When are we starting budget?
We haven't got any dates set, but we're, Danielle's learning some things and we're working on it. And you're gonna have to understand right now, it's Danielle and I, we're trying to get somebody in now. I don't know. We've got an individual looking to come to us who's got a lot of experience looking into the analyst position. That would be a great help to us right now. Has actually done been the finance director at a small city nearby. They're also looking at another position also. So David and I are working on that now, trying to get this individual on there.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the city? Yes, sir. Mr. Barry Foster.
Mary Foster, 3750 Highway 27 North Sebring.
Yes.
Are we at the end?
Yes.
I have been tasked with telling you that My wife has rescued 8 kittens from certain death and homelessness. They're now living in the lap of luxury.
Okay.
There are 8 of them. 2 are orange, 2 are gray, 2 are black, 2 are Heinz 57. They're up for adoption.
I think the fire department needs to.
They are living, they're getting taken care of so well, but they're ready to leave now. The 2 orange ones are Republican. They're named Orange Cat Bad and Orange Cat Bad 2.
All right.
So if anyone wants to adopt a cat, please see me and I'll give you my business card. And we'll take care of that. I can now go home and have a cookie. Thank you.
All right. We wish you all the best.
Mayor, one last thing, we just all like to say happy birthday to Danielle.
Happy birthday,
Hold on.
Danielle.
Happy birthday. I want to see if I can make it turn red. She's a little bit, but-
What are you, 28, 29 now?
Well, that's older than Maria thought she was.
I said 12. You look very young.
All right. A woman never reveals her age,
One other
right?
thing,
Yes.
I would like to thank the city manager and his staff for an excellent job on Lake Tulane cleanup. It's beginning to look wonderful.
Here, here.
I really, really appreciate it.
Well,
I've gotten a lot of comments,
Thank you, but that's not,
compliments.
it's not the city manager, it's that man up there, David Roberts, and his crew
Right.
working together.
Well, I
So-
complained to you, I didn't complain.
I
to
know,
you.
but I'll take the complaint, but the kudos go to them, that's the ones out there doing it.
It rolls downhill, even the compliments, right?
There you go.
All right. Anything else to give the city? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned.